You see, the world's broken by sin, folks. The greatest enslavement we have is sin, our enslavement to sin. It's not the enslavement, as horrible as it would be, to be enslaved to any other country. No one will say, as horrible as that would be. Don't get me wrong. That's not the greatest enslavement you can ever have. The greatest enslavement is an enslavement to sin, bondage to sin. You're a slave to sin. That breaks the world, that breaks marriages, that breaks churches, that breaks families, that breaks jobs and careers and relationships. It's our greatest enemy. And so like Israel, we begin to think, you know what we need? Well, it's not necessarily a military leader or political leader, although some do. We think, well, we need better meds. We need more money in our bank account. We need a new job. We need a new husband. That'll do it. We need a new wife. My kids need a new dad. You know what? We need some medical technology. We need more technology. I need some new toys. That'll do it. I need a new house. Man, I need some new friends. No, what we need is Jesus. You see, the problem is sin and the solution is Jesus. And so as the song reveals a plea of Israel, oh come, Emmanuel. As it reveals a plea, they're pleading for some redemption, but they really didn't know what kind of redemption they really wanted or needed. That plea is heard all over the country today. People are pleading for some relief, but they really don't know that the only thing that will give them relief is Jesus. Some of you would say, you know what, Pat, I love Jesus. Man, I believe in Jesus. My husband still left. I believe in Jesus. My granddaddy still died. Man, I love Jesus, and I serve the church, and my son rebelled a long time ago. He's off in the high weeds. I love Jesus. I lost my job. You see, what we need to understand as Christians is when we became a Christian, when Jesus redeemed us, he removed us from the penalty of sin. We are no longer under the penalty of sin, the penalty being death. We are no longer separated from God. We are now heaven-bound, not hell-bound. We are guaranteed that we will go to heaven and spend eternity with him. We're no longer under the bondage of sin, which means it doesn't control me. I still commit sins, but not because I have to, because I want to now, to be honest. Right? I'm free. I'm not under the penalty of sin, but I'm still in the presence of sin because we live in a broken world. We live in a world broken by sin. And as long as we live in a world broken by sin, people are still going to die. People that love Jesus are still going to die. People that love Jesus are still going to have kids that rebel. People that are going to love Jesus are still going to have husbands that make stupid decisions and wives that make stupid decisions. People that still love Jesus are still going to have sickness, and we're still going to have crime committed against us because we live in a world. We're not under the penalty of sin as Christians anymore, but we are in the presence of sin. And so here's the beautiful thing about O come, Emmanuel. The translation was written, it was written in almost 800 AD, and it was written to remind us of a plea for a nation for deliverance, and the deliverance they were looking for was political, military, national, but the deliverance they needed was spiritual, but it also doubles as a plea for Christians today to long for the second coming of Jesus Christ, because that's what gives us hope. You see, we live in a broken world, but we know Jesus is in control. We live in a broken world, but we know we've been redeemed. We know that this is not the end of the story. As Israel longed for the coming of the Messiah, the church today longs for his return to consummate the history of redemption. You see, redemption has only begun. The final blood has been shed. The debt has been paid. Forgiveness has been purchased. God's wrath is removed. Adoption is secure. The down payment is in the bank. The future is sure, but the end is not yet. The end is not yet. So this doubles. Yes, it speaks to Israel's longing for redemption, but it also speaks to our plea for Christ to come quickly, because we know we are redeemed. We know the penalty is gone, but we still live in the presence. And we know that when Jesus returns and he takes us, then we know once again there'll be no more hospitals because there'll be no more sickness. There'll be no more funeral homes because there'll be no more death. There'll be no more tears because there'll be no more broken relationships. There'll be no more divorce courts because there'll be no more divorce. There'll be no more rebellious kids. There'll be no more single moms trying to make ends meet at Christmas or any other time of the year. There'll be none of that. So that's what we long for. O come, Emmanuel. Matthew chapter 1, verses 21 through 23. The gospel writer speaks of Isaiah's prophecy. And he says this, she will bear a son, and you shall call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet, meaning Isaiah. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which means God with us. Folks, what we celebrate at Christmas is the fact that the God of the universe, the God who took and created the entire world, the God who named the stars, measured the depths of the ocean and the height of every mountain, the God who created every galaxy, the God who created you put on flesh, and he came to live on this planet so that he could live a perfect life and die our death, because the price for sin was death. We couldn't die that death because, you see, we weren't perfect. But he lived a perfect life so he could die our death in our place as our substitute and come back from the dead, proving God was satisfied, removing the wrath of God from those who say, yes, Jesus, I surrender my life and all I have to you. That's what we celebrate at Christmas. That's why this season is so important. That's why this season changes every season. That's why December 25th it's not probably the day Jesus was really born, but it's the day we set aside because it's the day that changed every day of the year.